Hello everyone, welcome back for some more Let's Read Fate Prototype. We're continuing through Volume 3, and we're learning a bit of the history between Berserker here, Henry Jekyll, as well as his relationship with Tatsumi, his master, right? We also learned a little bit about Assassin and how she was summoned, so with that said, let us continue on with Act 3. Berserker's master confronts the slaughter ritual. Well, that doesn't sound great. Okay. A certain day in February 1991, the 8th day since Berserker's summoning, late at night, in a quiet back alley in a quiet residential area in Suginami Ward, Tokyo. Despite being in Tokyo, the alley faced a green area. It doesn't look like a residential area. It's too vast to be described as a forest. A black forest. For example, it's not too uncommon to find large park facilities such as Shinjuku Goyen National Garden, Yoyogi Park, Egota no Mori Park in Nakano Ward, and Ueno Park in the Taito Ward, but at least on a map, there are no such facilities on this map. So the forest-like denseness must be privately owned. In other words, it's a place where people are not allowed to enter. It's easy to tell by the barbed wire fence, and although it is easy for an adult male to climb over it, there is more than enough off-limits signs. More than enough. The fence is equipped with powerful magecraft likened to clearing people out, and people who see it will have their desire to approach or trespass dwindle. In a sense, it was a kind design. No one maliciously trying to step onto private land, nor adventurous children or reckless youths, will step into the Black Forest where many deathly traps are woven with mana and magecraft. Those who are not entirely familiar with magecraft will leave, and even magi are expected to be cautious and disperse. Indeed, I'm grateful for it. Yes, the blonde young man thinks deep down tonight. The Black Forest, which is covered with many layers of deathly bounded fields, is more dangerous than a minefield in a conflict zone if he expresses it according to the modern era of the 20th century, like the liquid outer core of the planet's core, or the void of space close to the sun. It is also equivalent to a space of certain death that does not allow the existence of living organisms. Why are you expressing it in terms of earth science or physics, Berserker? Because you let me read your textbooks. No, I'm sorry. But it's still a dangerous place over there. True. But even in outer space, people can connect their lives with the wisdom of spacesuits. Similarly, though not the same, I can move through the forest of death due to my nature as a servant, though I do not possess magic resistance. The parameters given to Berserker by using his noble phantasm, especially endurance, can be used for head-on battles with servants classified as the 3 knight classes. His body can withstand the ferocity spoken of in myths and legends, is optimized by the morphological changes that accompanies his self-modification skill, and it appears he can take it on all the deathly magical bounded fields. Of course, it goes without saying, there are limits. I don't think humanity has been able to develop a suit that can withstand the heat of the Earth's core. It'll be realized someday, because the possibilities that people have are endless. Endless? Yes, endless. Is that how it goes? It's that sort of thing, Master. While carrying on a telepathic communication, a remote exchange that does not rely on his or his master's voice, Berserker calms down and collects his thoughts. As far as he can tell, 2 servants, including himself, have tried to invade the Forest of Death. Adding to that, the demon who continued to kill ordinary citizens by devouring their souls around Ikebukuro. Could it be Assassin, who appears to have lost their dignity as a hero? If they use their presence concealment skill, it would be impossible for him to detect their presence even among the same fellow servants. If he excludes that possibility, then this means this forest has not yet been targeted by the other servants, except for that one incident last night. The Holy Grail War. Berserker thinks about the war situation. It's a stalemate so far. Even though each servant has occasionally engaged in battles in various parts of Tokyo, all 7 masters and servants are likely still alive, and it is only this forest in Suginami that is confirmed to have a sitting master and servant. Then proceed with the plan without change, Berserker. Okay, Tatsumi. His last words overlap with his voice. He turns his green gaze towards the forest. Yo, he do be eating a rice ball. What's in his hand? Oh, that's his vial. Uh-oh. I see. The Black Forest. The Forest of Death. A mansion with an extremely vast site. It's like a backyard, to speak, not a proper forest. A fake customized by the owner of the mansion. In other words, it is the only entrance leading to the main residence of the Rayricon family, a prestigious family that is secretly said to control the magecraft world of the Far East. The entire site of the Rayricon estate is now a threatening magical workshop, with the extremely strong bounded fields as mentioned before, and only this tear in a corner of this forest, which was prepared as an outright trap and estate where it is possible to forcibly invade from the outside. Initially, it was a little different. Judging from Berserker's experience, who had secretly tried to invade the premise on the second day since his summoning, it was certain that it was a toppleable bounded field, as if he were prepared for some exhaustion. But 2 days later, the bounded field that covered the entire grounds was strengthened to a terrifying degree. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more and see the text a bit better. There we go. 2 days later, the bounded field that covered the entire grounds was strengthened to a terrifying degree. Like something else. Even he, who is not so forgiving of magecraft, could grasp its wonderful technique. Truly a space of certain death. Is it the liquid outer core of the planet's core, the void of space close to the sun? Bounded field design and construction, which can be called a special technique unattainable by modern magi, and the work of those who appear with a class that is most proficient in exercising magecraft, even among heroic spirits that are the embodiment of myths and legends. First of all, the reconstruction of the workshop was Castor's work. He had turned the Rayricon Manor into a temple-class magical fortress. Could he say that he had forced it that night they had decided it was possible to break through? However, at that time, they were still uncertain that the Rayricon Magus was a Holy Grail War participant, and he did not even act with his master's consent. Therefore, Berserker quickly withdrew. Don't regret what has already passed, huh? He recalls what his master said yesterday. Or were they the words of his late grandmother? As a result, they were unable to prevent the establishment of the powerful temple-class workshop, nor were they able to defeat Master Rayricon before he could summon Castor, nor kill him. And young Tatsumi had to say to Berserker, who regrets that he had no choice but to retreat from the Sky Silver heroic Seert, who appears to be Saber, whom he encountered last night. If that's the case, he doesn't regret it. Like him, he will just do what he can do now. Dangerous game, the game of sin. With the release of its true name, he takes the liquid noble phantasm stored in the small bottle. This is suitable game time. If Saber was also targeting the Rayricon estate, then this situation is time sensitive. Therefore, he does not hesitate. He is strongly aware he must not think about the risks brought by the side effects for now. He swallows it down and gulps it. From his mouth, from his tongue, from his throat, from the bowels of his stomach, the noble phantasm instantly permeates every corner of his ether-composed body and immediately transforms his transient body. Probably because his class is Berserker. Unlike the appearance he had when he transformed after medicating like this in his life, and the appearance that was portrayed as a novel work modeled after himself, Jekyll transforms into its shape close to his true nature. He transforms, changes, shapeshifts, self-modifies himself. His skeleton creaks, his muscle mass increases, his body solidifies, and his fangs and claws stretch like a sword. His existence itself changes as it expands, while cloaking himself in a haze that resembles a black shadow. His flesh changes, his awareness changes. All reason is wiped out as he transforms into a mass of destructive impulses that embody savagery. The desire for prey manifests itself in a forward-leaning stance, and a torrent of hostility and murderous impulses make his red eyes shine. Ugh. While surely hiding determination as he sinks into the depths of his soul, Berserker, who had turned into a mad beast, moans. He's like a beast that devours all human blood. However, while hoping to be a hero that protects the lives of people. At the same time, in a vacant room in an apartment overlooking the forest behind the Rayricon estate, Tatsumi Kitano was watching over Berserker's raid countless times through the binoculars he usually used for bird watching, with a rice ball he bought from a 24-hour convenience store in one hand. On the fourth day, they detected that the Rayricon residence had turned into a workshop that could even be called a temple because of his acts of desperation. Counting the first invasion attempt, which Tatsumi was unaware of, it was exactly the 6th attempt. The first 2 times were invasions, but for the following 2 times, both Tatsumi and Berserker clearly recognized their actions as raids. A challenge. Is such an expression possible? The overthrow of a magus who reigns over Tokyo and is trying to execute some evil ritual. I wish I could communicate with him. He murmurs a little after swallowing the salmon rice ball. Even though it's indoors, it's a room with no heaters, so when he speaks, his white breath leaks out. It's cold. He cannot remove his jumper, or rather, exposing himself to the cold and exhausting himself any more is sheer stupidity. Tatsumi strongly realizes that his mana is endlessly delivered to Berserker through their path. The consumption of life force that is converted into mana by magic circuits, sudden exhaustion and fatigue. It is something that he doesn't feel at all, and the use of noble phantasms makes Berserker truly perform as a servant, but from the moment he turned into a windstorm of madness, it weighed on Tatsumi in the shape of intense exhaustion and fatigue. It's really rough, harsh. Although it's harsher than running around the school at full power, he won't complain. He won't say it. He has no intention of saying it. He remembers last night. Berserker fell behind during his battle with Saber, the heroic spirit of the sword, probably because he was too inexperienced as a magus. Tatsumi, who can barely use his inherited mystic eye, is not able to supply him with enough mana. Berserker, who has the rank of the 2nd-ranked servant, would originally be a match for the 3 knights. Because he doesn't know magecraft or mysteries, it was a feeling that Tatsumi could expect even if he didn't get the particulars of the Holy Grail War, and at the time, it was one of the main factors that made him feel regretful. Power magus with more superior magic circuits, and my friend should be able to go all out with his power. Go for it, Berserker. I don't mind if you... Oh, that was him saying it, right? That my friend should be able to go out with his power. Oh, he's talking about my friend is his other form, I see. Go for it, Berserker. I don't mind if you go all out tonight. That's what the rice balls were for. He spent a lot of his allowance sent by his parents for his living expenses for the months, buying up this and not to mention expensive health drinks. From what Tatsumi experienced over the last few days, the consumption of mana seemed to be close to physical exhaustion, so he prepared something that could make up for such stamina, but in truth he didn't know if this would fit the bill. Whether or not the consumed energy can be made up for with rice balls and energy drinks, his friend told him that it wasn't in vain for the time being. I mean, if it works in Yakuza, it should work here, right? Or not even Yakuza. That's how you battle in Samurai Remnant. You just keep stuffing in them rice balls and you just keep winning. He was a little disappointed, because his manner of speech indicated that it wasn't completely useful. But he won't give up. He doesn't want to make Tokyo a battlefield. He won't let it. With that one intent, Tatsumi Kitano decided to do everything he can do. Reiricon. The black forest he could see beyond his binoculars. He thinks of the person who lives in that manner. Master Reiricon was a strong bounded field laid out in the middle of Suginami Ward, and who doesn't seem to move from there. Surely his aim is... He must have chosen to hole himself with his mansion as his personal fort. Although he's not very good at his Japanese and world history classes, Tatsumi can guess that much the same. Certainly, he thinks they have a lot of self-confidence in their defenses as they form bounded fields that his friend says are like the Earth's core of the void of space, but he's unsettled that they chose a siege battle in the middle of an urban area. Except for the clash between Saber and Berserker last night, there currently is no type of siege with servants in this mess. Even so, if some master exercises a large-scale magecraft, or if a servant releases the true name of their destructive noble phantasm, well, the kind of miserable sights in photos and videos of conflict in countries in Southeast Asia, which you sometimes see on TV for example, can happen in this city as well. With that, he will definitely stop it. Tatsumi seriously wishes to stop it. That girl from yesterday, tonight, she's not in that forest. Well, that's to be expected. While eating his 2nd rice ball, he recalls the figure of the little girl he saw through Berserker's eyes. Was it due to his innate mystic eye or some kind of magecraft exercise? Tatsumi shared his transforming friend's sight, if not completely. That's why he saw it. Oh, does he have mystic eye of farsight? I think I heard of that one there before. Last night, the girl who was paralyzed with fear. That girl, who had encountered Berserker who had invaded the Black Forest, must definitely be some relative of the Reiricon family. She was just a girl around the age of maybe a middle or upper elementary school girl. She had very beautiful black hair and looked like an adult. Okay, wait, whoa, what does that mean? I think you mean the phrase she carried herself like an adult, because, like, it's a very strange thing to say about a upper or middle elementary grade school girl, buddy. Okay. She was a cute girl, recalling his little sister when she was her age. No, did he do it without remembering her? Regardless, Tatsumi continued to fervently send the order, "Don't kill that child," to Berserker, who was connected to himself through their path. However, his words hardly reached his friend, who lost all reason to the activation of his madness enhancement skill. If he was able to grasp this in the last few days, it was the fact that Tatsumi, who only had frail magic circuits, could end up exhausting himself so much that the instinctively dangerous Berserker would no longer be able to maintain his transformation state, and eventually had to release his noble phantasm, and only had to wait for him to withdraw. But just when he decided that he had no choice but to use a master degree to stop him, he appeared. Saber, a heroic spirit who wields an invisible weapon. It wasn't like he gave his name, so he wasn't sure of his class, but Tatsumi was convinced he must be Saber. That servant who fought brilliantly against Berserker and protected the black-haired girl must truly be a true hero befitting the first rank, a prince from a fairy tale, or a noble knight that appears in medieval knight stories. He wanted to express himself, then the figure would... If it's him, I might be able to talk with him. He thinks with a little expectation. No, it's an impossible subject. He was told by his stern friend that encountering an enemy servant means death for a master. Tatsumi can understand his logic. The 7 masters and servants who participate in the Holy Grail War have wishes as a rule and fight for their lives to fulfill them. If they meet a hostile master, then the servant will almost certainly turn their blade against them, to fulfill the wish in the present era of the 20th century, which is far from the era they lived in. Even that Saber who protected the girl should be no exception. Heroic spirits fight with their mighty power. Heroic spirits fight regardless of their origin. In this city, to the people, cause enormous damage to them. By now, the soul devouring by assassin is continuing not only in Ikebukuro, but also in various parts of Tokyo. Someone has also been killed tonight. That's why I'll stop it, no matter how reckless the challenge is. According to Berserker's investigation, the Shadow Ruler reigns over the darkness of Tokyo, Master Reirikon. Tatsumi absolutely can't afford to leave the evil Magus, who must be trying to push Tokyo into turmoil of the Holy Grail War without sitting or taking action. There is something he must do in front of him. He had discovered the enemy. He has to do it for everyone. No matter how inferior he is or inexperienced, even if he is reckless or unsightly, even with the amazing destructive power of Berserker, who had turned into a mad beast using his noble phantasm, he still cannot reach the main residence after many tries. If they cannot encounter Castor, who seems to be able to manipulate powerful magecraft, they can't even ascertain what their noble phantasm is. Nevertheless, Tatsumi Kitano does not want to give up and continues to challenge it, all while continuing to endure the intermittent exhaustion that seems to be screaming at him tonight. Tonight for sure. With his and his new friends, Berserker's hands for sure. He will stop the Holy Grail War. Okay. I thought that was the end of this chapter. I guess not. Stop the Holy Grail War. In other words, to put it neatly, defeat them. Or to put it tangibly, kill them. Tatsumi himself, to a certain extent, foresaw that such an unsettling act would be necessary, so that Tokyo won't be destroyed, so that people won't be killed. It was clear that the state power of the police would not be of help, considering the Soul Eater cases caused by assassin could not be resolved at all. The serial murder case, even though it doesn't seem publicly disclosed, he investigated it with Berserker. Because his new friend prepared this and that in his handy miracle drug, they got as far as it's a serial murder. A large number of victims of adult men have died of unknown causes. The victims had entered a hotel with a girl in white clothes who appeared to be assassin, died in the morning with the same words written in lipstick in the room's mirror. Although police were stubbornly hiding the information, it had become the rumor of the 11 p.m. Death Mary at the high school where Tatsumi attends. Strangely, it wasn't talked on TV, and it was only spoken a little in public on late-night radio programs, so it seemed to spread to young people in no time. Similar stories were circulating even in elementary and junior high schools. It had become an urban legend of that kind, such as the human-faced dog or the slit-mouthed woman that was popular a while ago. Looks like the Reirokon family is putting pressure on them. The police, I mean. A few days ago, Berserker had said as much. Matters pertaining to the Holy Grail War are to be kept hidden, no matter how many people die in the process of it. There was a rumor that the Holy Church are moving out in some uncertain information. The church? You mean that church where you go to and confess or pray at? That's kind of close, but that's not it. Even if he didn't understand it, he could only understand that there was a darkness in society that Tatsumi didn't know about, and that the Holy Grail War is being operated while being deeply linked to it, so it cannot easily be stopped. You can't rush to a police box and dial 110 in a straightforward manner. I didn't know that that's their number. Again, it's like I always assume it's 911 because that's, kind of what it is for most of the world, but nope, it's not that for Japan, I guess. Surely he had no choice but to tackle those dark acts. Even if he had to dye these hands in blood, but could he defeat the enemy? Could he kill the enemy? Would he have no choice but to do the same things as those who carry out the Holy Grail War in order to stop it? It was on the 5th day after Berserker's summoning that Tatsumi's intentions became clear. After hearing a certain rumor at his high school, Tatsumi chose to put off their attack on the Reirokon Manor, which had become a daily routine, and made the way to the Chiyoda Ward, Tokyo at night, specifically around the JR Akihabara station. According to a male classmate who liked online communications, a ghost cloaked in blue phosphorescence appears every night on the rooftop of one of the Akihabara multi-tenant buildings at midnight. It may have been one or two people, but it was a small rumor compared to Death Mary, a story that carries on the premise that there will be dead people. It was not as impactful as the female homicidal maniac who leaves a message in lipstick. Even so, Tatsumi headed to Akihabara. One or maybe two people. He had a feeling that it might be a servant. Choosing one of the multi-tenant buildings, Berserker stood by on the roof, while Tatsumi decided to wander around and search for the master. Since they would consider him to be an average citizen if he didn't use magic, he would try not to look as much as possible if something goes wrong. Berserker told him that if he saw it, then he would likely lose his life at the hands of the master as part of the concealment of the mysteries. He mustn't glimpse at it. Mysteries. He mustn't get to know it. Magecraft. He said that mages are such creatures. As he knew from Assassin's example, they do not necessarily attach importance to social morals, ethics, values, but value the study of mysteries untouched by people's eyes. Indeed, however, Tatsumi could quite understand what he meant when he said that the properties of mysteries diminishes as it spreads. If they determine that you aren't looking at anything, or if there's a chance the enemy master is wondering how to deal with you, if by chance that happens, there's a very low possibility, right? Is your strategy? Is your resolve wavering? No? Then don't look at anything ever. Use that eyes half closed technique that Oriental samurai do, the what? That just feels like a microaggression. Try to grasp your surroundings without focusing on them. Okay. Instead, call me the moment you feel something is off. With a master degree. Got it? A master degree. A powerful magical power, really powerful power, brought by the Grail as an absolute command right. A black pattern of a single wing had emerged on Tatsumi's left shoulder. He understood that it was extremely valuable as there were only 3 strokes in general, but he wouldn't hesitate to use it in an emergency. Tatsumi nodded to his anxious friend and the operation began. Servants did not always appear and the master did not always appear on the street. In Akihabara after 7 p.m., almost all the shops had dropped their shutters. Lights went out from the buildings, pedestrian traffic remarkably decreases, and although it was filled with darkness, it was so quiet that it did not look like the city close to the center of Tokyo. I'm putting my life on a line on a hit and miss. This, even though he devised it himself, it's a shocking detail. While sighing inwardly, Tatsumi walked through Akihabara at night, a downtown with few people. Then, a reliable hunch became reality and apparently appeared in front of Tatsumi. He had seen it. He was told that he shouldn't look at it. Or rather, why did that friend think Tatsumi was capable of the eyes half closed special technique that could only be seen in period novels? Did he think any man from a samurai country could do the same thing? He didn't know. Even if he did know, it was too late. He saw it. To be precise, he saw them. From the driver's seat of a sedan parked on the street, the figure of a young woman looking up at the sky with the side window opened. That's her. He was convinced of it. The goddess of fortune smiled down on him. He definitely sensed her before she did. I've done it! I'm faster! She was distracted. He thinks it was a stupid action now. There's also a certain amount of idiocy in it. Naturally, the results was endless scolding by his indignant friend after the fact, but Tatsumi took action at his own discretion without obeying his directions. Titch, I don't know if that came up on the mic. With his own right eye, he concentrates on his senses. He activates his mystic eye. In the last few days, it was possible for him to activate it in 2 seconds, and stares at the woman while feeling the sudden consumption of mana. It's a little better than using a noble phantasm. Her gaze, her reaction, he placed it on her. It appears the automatic resistance by the target creature, which Berserker had taught him about the activation and exercise mechanism, has failed, meaning the mystic eye worked correctly. All the target's movements stop. He runs up to the woman who should be unable to move. He grabs her right arm through the still open side window. A more delicate response than he expected. There's no reaction. She doesn't move. She can't move. After that, what are you going to do? Tatsumi Kitano, you from here. What? What is that? What? What? That doesn't make any... Why are you talking about yourself? That's a bit confusing. Huh? What do you do? What should he do? From this situation, this approach, his mystic eye can only stop the movements of creatures. It's a powerful effect, but not a decisive attack. In other words, he can't hurt or kill someone with his mystic eye. A weapon. He didn't have one. Although his new friend repeatedly told him to carry something. Unarmed. For himself, he can't maintain his mystic eye and couldn't even last long in karate. It was no good. Furthermore, more than anything, for starters, it's just... can't do something like kill someone. If that's so, why is he like this? Use the mystic eyes. Stop their movements. Get so close to the person who should be his enemy. His friend explained to Tatsumi the mages and heroic spirits can be more dangerous than humans with guns and bombs. I realize I'm looking up now. Let me fix that. There we go. There we go. Perfect. He said so too. It's like grabbing onto the arm of a soldier on the battlefield without a weapon, so to speak. Or is it more correct to say he was touching the edge of a weapon? He was doing something stupid. What to do, Tatsumi Kitano? What will you do from here on? There was an answer. With his determination. Maybe. Sure it is. It was slim enough to assert that he couldn't rely on his confidence and grounds. From the start, from the moment he decided to go to Akihabara on this day. He wanted to do this. On the street of Akihabara, Tatsumi must have staked everything into this reckless decision at this moment. Please, listen to me. Quietly, he calms down. While recalling his grandmother's words, Tatsumi spoke to the person. I want to stop the Holy Grail War. Okay. Right? And he's gonna try and talk with the lady there. Oh yeah, that's his mystic eye. Okay. Okay, we got another section here. About the management of the Holy Grail War. Needless to say, the Holy Grail War is nothing more than a magecraft ritual centered around the Greater Grail and the Lesser Grail brought from the Holy Church. The Mage Association will be shaped according to the Church's proposal. However, the Holy Grail War is never held under the management of the Church. An overseer is dispatched from the Church, but he's only an overseer. Know that they are different from an administrator. Should the Holy Grail War continue for a second or third time, or there will be discussions between the Mage Association and the Holy Church to consider which one has the right to run the Holy Grail War. But in the first ever Holy Grail War held in Tokyo, at least, there is no clear administrator. A mutual slaughter by 7 masters and servants scrambling for the Holy Grail. This is nothing but the Holy Grail War. Both the Church and the Association are essentially just assistants to this magecraft ritual. Concealment of mysteries is an absolute rule for mages, but no finer points are inherently enacted for this Holy Grail War. In short, they will kill each other, scramble, until one master and servant pair remains. Know that no one can stop the progress of the Holy Grail War. An excerpt from an old notebook. Although, it is likely, Berserker is going to kill Master Reirukan. On the night of the 7th day since the arrival of his new friend, Yes, Tatsumi Kitano thinks while sensing his own mana being consumed endlessly through the path. His friend, who had transformed into his guise to fight by releasing the true name of his noble phantasm, advances into the Black Forest with unprecedented momentum while taking the obstructions caused by the numerous bounded fields with his body. He can see from his tentative body getting hurt. He can see the determination to keep moving forward without giving up or retreating. It's probably due to his determination from before his transformation that he does not recklessly run wild and leave the forest. His strength of will is tremendous, he thinks, but that's it. Tatsumi already understood that the loss of reason was due to his madness enhancement skill is absolute, and no further exceptions can be expected. His experiences from the past few days have said so. That's why he can read Berserker's intentions. Since he who turned into a mad beast and lost his reason seeks only slaughter and destruction, even with an iron will, he can at best set a vector. In this case, his destination is the Rayrakon's main residence. Their operation will be successful if they are able to intently proceed, destroy and kill the owner along with the main residence. I'm sure he's thinking that way, Tatsumi thinks. That is ideal. That is for the best. Considering the nature of the servant called Berserker and the resources of the workforce of him and Tatsumi, there could be no other desirable developments, but still, I don't want to kill. You know that, Jekyll. While thinking of his friend's second name, he endures the feeling of the mana consumption. He tries to make a dialogue. Yes, Tatsumi clearly thinks. Same as that night in Akihabara. His new friend, who was like a teacher to him, told to him to think of mages and heroic spirits, beings like monsters and weapons that think. He agreed to some extent. Given the battle between servants that he saw several times through his eye, the words had unwavering legitimacy, rather. The battles in which existences with unrealistic powers collide was projected as a force that cannot be compared to the anime and manga that Tatsumi has seen so far in life. If anything, yes, it was closer to footage recorded on a battlefield. Not a superhuman heroic figure or conspicuous service, but something terrifying that made him expect death. It could be an ancient war, or a war that took place in the Middle East last year. Doesn't matter if it's a conflict zone in Southeast Asia, anything. Doesn't matter if it's a record, an account, video, or whatever. He hadn't those kind of deep emotions from Battlefield records. He hadn't had those kind of deep emotions from Battlefield records for a long time. Rather, Tatsumi only understood it after the events of the last few days. This was the exact vague haze that he felt from the weapons and soldiers' figures who carry guns, which was different from the coolness that he had always seen from heroes on TV when he was a kid. Death. Something that steals lives. The power to ruthlessly destroy those that it's directed to, regardless of the presence or absence of those... let me try that again. The power to ruthlessly destroy those it's directed to, regardless of the presence or absence of their determination and resolve at all. I don't like it. He had no way to tell him that. His friend had already turned himself into the mad beast. I don't want you to kill anyone. You know that, right, Jekyll? Master Rayracon may be a bad guy. He's hiding the murder incidents after all. But we don't really know what kind of guy he is, and besides, even if he talked directly to his mind, if his crucial mind is blank, then nothing will reach him. He knows that. He knows, so Tatsumi talks to him. He calls out to him and says it straight out. You're probably planning to destroy the entire Rayracon mansion, but if you do that, then that girl, the black-haired girl that his friend almost killed last night, it was Saber's presence that allowed the incident to end without injury, and if the Sky Silver Knight hadn't been there, hadn't stopped him there, then his claws might have dug into her. Given his last-minute behavior, he might have crunched her whole skull with his beast-mutated jaws. Okay, so this is wild, right? Like, we've seen what he looks like in FGO. He's definitely not the way they describe him here. Like, he just turns into an edgy Bakugo-looking dude. Like, the design they're making me have in my head is not the design that I see in FGO. There was a fairly high percentage of that, too. He couldn't bear it. Killing a small girl. Making Berserker do that without stopping him. Killing a child. That's not justice, Jekyll. They really should have talked about it. Or executing his 6th raid. His words were not enough. Tatsumi had chosen to do this because he who was a mere high school student didn't think he could do anything to he who was calm and talked so reasonably that such a name as Berserker didn't suit him. to he who possessed much knowledge and experience. He had chosen this. The strategy remains the same, a single assault. However, just before he kills Master Raricon, he decided to use his Master Degree. He will stop Berserker's fangs and claws with his absolute right. By the time we reach the Master, Castor will naturally be crushed. The forest's bounded fields will have vanished. So if I run and descend on a mansion in the rush, I'll speak with the Master, who should be shaking in front of Berserker, and then... It's a very convenient idea. Well, that was obvious. Assuming that everything worked in Tatsumi and Berserker's favor, that is. Without being disturbed by Saber-like last night, without being disturbed by that awesome beauty Lancer who they encountered at midnight on the day they strolled around Shinjuku, without being disturbed by Archer who shot at Berserker in Akihabara, without being interrupted by Ryder, who they hadn't seen yet, Castor, who rules over the Black Forest, will be defeated by Berserker, and then it'll be over. It's every equal to a pipe dream that's only convenient for Tatsumi. Is he overly optimistic? Optimistic. Tatsumi himself thinks he's being completely optimistic, however. Say, you know in Akihabara, I think we got through to that woman a little. That's what I think. The words he piles on over their telepathy. Even if they didn't reach his rampaging friend in that storm, he'll tell them. After that, he exhales his pure white breath. He didn't feel cold because he was sweating all over his body. The rapid consumption of mana that comes with Berserker's activities is continuing even now, as his friend is finally approaching the middle of the forest. Tatsumi feels more tired than had he sprinted for several kilometers. He already drank 5 health drinks, and he didn't have enough energy to eat rice balls. There is some dizziness. He strongly believes it will be life-threatening if this keeps up. He touches his left shoulder with his right hand. His Master Degree. Should he use it here? If he saves 1 stroke, he'll have a way to stop him at the very end, so he should be able to use up to 2 strokes. Although his friend had strictly told him to save 1 for emergencies, tonight is game time. Since Saber showed up last night, they should consider that the Raricon mentioned already turned into a battlefield for the Holy Grail War. Are you going to use it? Your Master Degree? A voice echoed in the room. It was a pretty voice. In an empty room where there should be no one but Tatsumi now, there was certainly the voice of a girl the same age as him. Huh? What did she say? What did she say? Her voice, her words, it was a beautiful voice that echoed quietly. No, the Master Degree, she said it. She told him, are you going to use your Master's Degree? That was a gist, surely. Straight away, Tatsumi turns around. Perhaps because of the dizziness. Moving his head vigorously badly hurts the back of his temple. Don't worry. Some of his pain can't be helped considering the continuous barrage of lethal magecrafts that his new friend keeps on taking in the Black Forest. He had been strong against pain since he was a child. However, compared to his little sister and close classmates from when he was little, it wasn't a trait that was especially superior to others. What are you doing? I don't know who's speaking, actually. The voice echoes again. A girl's voice. Yes, she must be a girl. There was a girl in an awfully light, white, tight-fitting one-piece dress for the season here. Is her age, from the impression of her voice, about the same or a little younger than Tatsumi? Perhaps because he was imagining it, there was a weird, bewitching aura. Even though she's properly dressed, it's like a fragile and ephemeral lingerie. Bare shoulders. Oh, I know who this is now, because I see a lively tanned body, right? Bare shoulders and neck, slender long thighs, and a lively tanned body. Was he strangely drawn in by her eyes? What the hell am I thinking? His reaction was delayed. Instantly, he gets confused without knowing what to do. Think. Remember. What did she say? She must have said something crucial, important. Tatsumi couldn't recall the memory of just a few seconds ago. He doesn't notice. He doesn't know that his body, which was drenched in a massive amount of sweat under his clothes, his thoughts were being corroded by something other than his heavy exhaustion from the mana consumption. Perhaps even a first-class magus would not notice it as it slowly fills this room, without no sign of magecraft or traces of mana. An ordinary person would have fallen at this point. The girl's figure, her lustrous skin, her very existence that seduces a man just by standing still. Therefore, it was a kind of miracle that Tatsumi said the following words. Is it because of the mana consumption that is exceeding the permissible level, Or is it because the magic circuits he inherited via his bloodline led to some magecraft in his extreme state? Either way, the result is the same. No, this is. Instantly, Tatsumi made a decision based on his own common sense. That is, the one-piece girl who appeared without a sound is most likely a human being. Buddy, I don't think she is. Buddy, oh no. Oh yeah, that's her. And that's her, yeah, her white dress. That's kind of neat. They looks like a basis of what they used in FGO for her alt costume. If so, is she a resident from the apartment next door? There must be no one there until recently, but she may have come home without him realizing it, and noticed the soliloquy or noise Tatsumi was making as the window was still open. Then, pitifully, she certainly saw his suspicious figure. Tatsumi even feels sorry for himself. Alone in this empty room, a strange man looking around outside with his binoculars. With this, he's either a total pervert or a criminal. A pervert or a criminal? No, that's not it. I have a goal here. I'm doing this for a goal, but I'm not doing it anything like you're imagining, etc. He'll explain himself. At times he concluded that because he was panicking, his tongue didn't function well, and he became incoherent. A decision. He didn't know what he was deciding on. Tatsumi addresses the girl without making all sorts of blunders. Fervently, desperately, he endures the mana consumption and withstands some intervention. That's why you shouldn't be here. He doesn't know what's going on. She could be targeted. It's dangerous, and if possible, he'd appreciate it if she went to her friend's house. He'll try to persuade her using all his words. Make sure she didn't see him and go home. If possible, stay away from the next room for a little while. It's dangerous. A terrifying existence beyond human knowledge may come here. If the enemy notices that she's here, then surely right now... The girl smiles unintentionally. Thank goodness she understood. You're a master, aren't you? Shivers, chills, dread. Right away, Tatsumi tries to manipulate the life form with his right eye, but it doesn't go through. And because of the mana that has been consumed. Was he out of power? No. No. Even if the remaining amount is small, there's definitely the sensation of his magic circuits working. So he knows that his right eye is trying to function as a mystic eye. It's not working. On the night before him, the power that should have restrained the female Magus on the night in Akihabara is being resisted by this girl. That's all. A servant! The words that his friend spoke many times now revived in his mind. After the incident on the night in Akihabara, he mentioned it many times per day. Avoid danger. Mages are the enemy. Servants too. Humans especially cannot beat the latter. If you use one, your mystic eye cannot help you in a real emergency. Don't hesitate next time. Use a master's degree and call me. If it is a certain kind of teleportation using a master's degree, it surpasses time and distance. Stay back. No good, stay away. Don't come near me. It's useless anymore and I will. Don't let me use this. If I use this, my friend will come soon. My friend, he'll surely kill you. There was a girl before his eyes. Her tanned limbs embraced Tatsumi with all their might. Gently, gracefully, as if they were wrapping around him. Her face is close. He thought she was cute. She may be beautiful. Or both. She's going to take a breath. And when he thought that, her lips. I'm glad you seem like a kind person. Gently, affectionately, the girl's lips touched his. At almost the same time, the sensation of something bewitching wriggles and slips from within her lipstick. And then, a ruthless euphoria runs through and melts everything, from his spine to his brain. Heat and sweetness. Or is it a poison caused by Assassin's noble phantasm? His final moments. There weren't many things that Tatsumi Kitano had in mind. At most, some profiles. His new friend, his younger sister, his parents, his close friends, the female classmate in the seat next to him who smiles at him once every 3 days, who he secretly wanted to confess to someday. And then, what do you suppose the reason for it was? an elementary schoolgirl who had only just noticed in a residential area in Suginami. A profile with clear eyes that shines in the sun emerges in his mind. Okay, so he's dead. Wow. Wow, he's just dead, huh? Real curious about where we're gonna go with some of this then, right? Is his story just done? I guess so, right? Okay. Well, rip to you. Let's learn about Act 4. The God King's heart is as noble as the sun. I guess we're going to learn a bit more about the God King. I'm assuming that this is going to be Ryder. A certain day in February 1991, in a large-scale magical workshop protected by a multi-layered barrier underneath the Okutama Mountains. It was a labyrinth-like workshop, a safeguarded fortress built through the collective effort of many mages reaching into the double digits, making it difficult to invade even if it was a mystery as powerful as a heroic spirit. Even if one tries to break the various bounded fields with magecraft, a magic trap will obliterate the foolish practitioner as they break one. Physically, innumerable gun turrets attached to those ceilings and walls inside the workshop will pulverize the intruder. Sturdy and strong, an indomitable fortress that makes full use of not only magecraft but of firearms and electronic devices. It was a workshop that seemed to embody the strategy the clan chose for the Holy Grail War. Indeed, it couldn't possibly compare with the mysterious technique used on the sanctuary built by the materialized caster. Neither the turning of space into a different world nor the placement of fierce traps like the vacuum of space or the scorching heat of the planet's core can rival it. Although it is difficult to destroy servants who are the cornerstone of the Holy Grail War, it is second to none in terms of thwarting the invasion of outsiders, whether it is a human army, a group of mages, or a heroic spirit. Everything is to protect the head of the clan who is a participant in the Holy Grail War. The Dark Hall built in the innermost part of the magical workshop. The workshop that had been strengthened to the max to protect Shizuri Isemi, the head of the Isemi clan. A masked old man who wanted to obtain the Holy Grail there in his seat was something like an old king's throne. I will obtain the Grail. The voice of Elder Shizuri echoes through his mask in the darkness. There's profound accumulated feelings in there. Anger, indignation, or a realization of pride. The Asemi clan, who had achieved great prosperity and growth by achieving symbiosis to some extent with modern society, however, largely fell behind another family as a Magus family, especially with regards to the Rarikon family, who be called the most prestigious family in the far eastern region, let alone Kanto. In fact, the name Asemi as a magecraft lineage was on the verge of collapse over the years. As the Mages Association, which was centered on the distant British clock tower, looked down on the younger lineages, the only Far Eastern family recognized by them was the Rarikon family. It was absolutely unforgivable. Originally, the history of the Akemi clan prided itself on their unrivaled length. They allowed this due to the rise of Western magecraft lineages who had visited this land at most several centuries ago. Moreover, in the event the Holy Grail, the omnipotent wish-granter, falls into the hands of the Rarikons, our name of Asemi will fade from this land now. Unforgivable. Simply unforgivable. His mask trembles even more with his voice. The expressionless masks symbolize the Asemi clan's current status quo, a mystic code to supplement their magic circuits, which had declined as a effect of accumulating bloodlines, and as the function to replace the mana taken from others with that of the wearer. An original created by the Asemi clan by fusing a portion of Western magecraft that had been introduced to the Far East more than a few hundred years ago with modern science. Under the management of the clan, the general hospitals scattered throughout Tokyo have been used to absorb life force from a number of inpatients, and even now, they continue to consume to maintain the materialization of the powerful servant they had summoned. Oh my god! All the hospitals are funding. Oh my god, that's crazy. Mana is directly connected to one's life force. If they keep on stealing it, there will be a considerable number of deaths. But Elder Shizuri does not care. It is an object of regret for him that he does not care how many innocent people die, but they have to use the power of science, which is the same as taboo for mages. However, Shizuri was worried about his usefulness, who had no choice but to continue the clan while touching the taboo, regardless of the suffering of those whose lives were being undermined at the very moment. In the bloodline of a magus who respects the old mysteries, science is horrible to put into words, but he has to endure it. He has to fight. I will put the Holy Grail hidden in Tokyo into these hands. At that time, we who hath lost the grace of the ancient snake of Issei reached out to Western magecraft and poured the sins of the clan which had gotten involved in an ill-suited science down on... They have to fulfill the ambition of 1,000 years of mages, and let them know that the Asemi are the greatest family in the world, let alone the Far East. They must take back the shame of the mages who reached out to the mysteries of science, as well as the honor and glory of the Asemi clan who looked down as puny transient lineage. Solemnly, the elder continues his speech. Therefore I beseech you, O Holy Spirit summoned by my ritual, obtain the Holy Grail by any means necessary. Each and every word contained the clan's regrets and dearest wishes. However, what a small vessel, how boring. Those were the words that he spat out. It was a solemn and absolute verdict, as if he resounded from the heavens. It was a cruel and heartless scorn, as if he'd arrived from the underworld. While standing in front of Elder Shizuri's gaze, he is wrapped in the sign of a dazzling king. A voice brought forth from the man with the eyes of the sun. It would be a little difficult to describe it as contempt. For this man, a man who wore golden ornaments and white robes over his tan skin, all beings were no match for himself, but just one of the citizenry. It was no different for the masked man seated on his imitation throne. How stupid. And, above all else, laughable. While firing off words, the man, Ryder, who just achieved materialization right then, thinks a little. Was it the same in all ages? Among his many subjects, there are sometimes those who seem to suffer from stupidity. Even after thousands of years, there will almost be no change to the people who fill the earth. With only small devices that are too small for his hands, there is nothing that shines or catches his eyes. Citizens, soldiers, generals too. Even the kings of various nations who govern the people, not just the pharaohs, are not so different. Therefore, the fact that the person is an ordinary person does not infuriate him as a pharaoh. But then, if they want to reach the heavens without discerning their place, then he needs to punish the little ones as the sun, as a god, as a being that rivaled Amun and Mut. I think that's, Amun. So that should be Amun, like Amun-Ra, and Mot, M-O-T, right? Okay, those are both spelled wrong. I know that. Thanks, SMT. Punishment. In other words, death. The arrogance and disrespect towards himself, a god on earth, is worthy of absolute death. Magus who dwells in this far eastern land, you must have used a catalyst to summon me. It will do you well to reveal it. What did you use for the catalyst? Was it the remnants of my bow or chariot that I used during my decisive battle with the Hittite king? Or was it an inscription of the treaty I made with the Hittites? Or was it something plundered from my very own mummy? All the items he spoke of were items filled with tremendous mysteries because they were old. It is not unfathomable what kind of enormous power they might have, such as the remains of one who was worshipped as a pharaoh or god on earth, drawn by a world where he sat as god who envisioned a united world, or in particular, the world's oldest anti-aggression treaty, an inscription that the king himself wrote for the peace treaty between the two nations so that they would be coveted targets for mages. He could not see the expression on Elder Shizuri's face who received the words of the man who resembled rebuke and denunciation because of the mask. The old man shakes his head. Of course, neither mystery can be a catalyst for Ryder, who had materialized beneath the Okutama Mountains. The only thing that can materialize him, the greatest heroic spirit in ancient Egypt, which is full of mysteries, as a servant of the Holy Grail War, was the relics associated with her, who was favored by him. It is as you've surmised, great pharaoh. We use the last necklace worn by Queen Nefertari. Is that how you say it? Nefertari? I've never read that out loud. Like, it's one of those things I've seen but never read out loud. It is Nefertari as a catalyst during her summoning. I see. Silence. And then Ha ha! You've researched me well. Certainly I'm attracted to the scent of my beautiful Nefertari, my one who shines like the sun, rather than an object derived from myself. With a big laugh, the man's eyes instantly shine sharply. His very large, murderous gaze slammed against the throne. At the same time, Boreas fired from the end of his genuine noble phantasm, Mesiket, which had only had its shining bow manifested in the subterranean space and easily gouged out the space surrounding Elder Shizuri. An intense light, an explosive sound. There was no point to the quadruple bounded fields that were set up during the summoning of the mighty heroic spirit. It breaks the fields. The transparent bulletproof glass that secretly separated the Elder from Ryder also shatters, and the thick wall, which should have been magically protected, is also demolished with the iron outer shell. Even this underground workshop, who has the aspect of a shelter designed for the potential outbreak of nuclear war during the Cold War, will immediately be annihilated if the solar bark exerts its true power. The figure of a brilliant person who slowly walks to his side, the appearance of an angry king, as if death incarnate had taken human form. It was neither the successful defense of his bounded fields made by the clan's mages, nor a happenstance of good luck the old man is still alive. The daring action by Ryder, who judged that would not be a punishment to vaporize him in one blow, only slightly took the life of Elder Shizuri. How dull. Chillingly, Ryder tells him while covered in splendor. Oh, that mask looks like the mask worn by, Perseus, right? Proto-Rider in real Fate prototype, right? Interesting. I wonder if that's actually connected. Huh. I wouldn't be surprised. If you defiled my beloved queen's place of rest, would you have imagined your own end? Choose. Will you be devoured by my divine beast, or will you be erased with all your clan here? Oh, but don't think of using your command seal. It is much faster for my light to burn you here than for your words to reach me. It is interesting. They go between command seal and master's degree. I wonder if that's on purpose, or if that's a translation thing, like different translators. I don't know. You're abandoning your wish to the Grail. I'd rather do that than dance in the palm of a disrespectful cur. Now choose. Two alternatives. Will both of them end the same way? An absolutely inevitable death sentence. Elder Shizuri fainted twice in 3 seconds, catching the massive murderous intent that poured through his gaze as if it were a physical shock, and no, he couldn't take it. Too laughable, too stupid, too powerful to endure the fear of murder and violence. However, this is also a natural situation. Unless one has an innate royal spirit, lowly people like mages cannot withstand the royal aura of this rider. Nevertheless, however, the old man woke up twice by the automatic function of his mystic code, which activates his mana. Just before he fell into a fainting state for the 3rd time, he kept himself conscious by using his own magecraft. Oh, you have guts for a magus. Or are you planning on savoring the moment of your death while keeping your consciousness clear? Neither. While exhaling a rough breath, Elder Shizuri speaks slightly. I won't forgive you for my insolence. I won't ask you to forgive my insolence. I've long since resigned myself to be killed, to fulfill the great ambition of all mages, to display the power of the Asemi clan. That is why I summoned you, who is like Amen and Amun. Oh, is Amen different from Amun? Okay. Like Amun-Ra? Okay, I didn't know. Okay, maybe. I see. Only 2 seconds between receiving the old man's words and Ryder's reply. To the Asemi clan, it was 2 seconds, which could have been said to be the height of good fortune. After showing a reflective manner, the brilliant man bumped off his solar bark, his noble phantasm suspended in the space off to somewhere, and announced it while pretentiously flapping his white robes. While looking down at Shizuri Asemi's eyes, which were an enticing expression through his mask really coldly. I am glory. I am heavens. I am magnanimous. Your life is in my hands now. You said you resigned yourself. Then let me see for myself the worth of your clan and whether those feelings and wishes meet the wishes of my master. But if it is trivial, know that you and your clan will immediately be burned by my glory and evaporate. About siege battles in the Holy Grail War. Siege battles in this case indicate a strategy where the master sits in the workshop and doesn't show up at all. Servants are so powerful that at first glance it makes sense to avoid encounters and stay locked in workshops. No matter how many battles you win, it doesn't make sense for a master to get hurt and die. It will certainly be crucial to protect one's own life. However, except for the caster class, servants are not suitable for siege battles. Once their whereabouts are known, the enemy camp will eventually be rushed. It will be difficult to protect it without a powerful temple-class workshop. Furthermore, even if the heroic spirits are activated outside the workshop and strive to defeat the enemy camp, even if it's not impossible to win through servant battles without the magical system of a magus or strengthen them with a command seal, would simply put you at a disadvantage. Even if one wins a battle by using a noble phantasm, the act of continuing to fight other camps with one servant, or the nature of your heroic spirit, the information of the noble phantasm have been revealed, carries a great danger to it. In light of these facts, siege battles are suitable tactics for the caster camp, except when the summoned servant is extremely powerful. If they are a great hero, who does not need the assistance of a magus and has unwavering combat power, even when encountering multiple enemy camps at the same time, even if the information on their noble phantasm is revealed, even if they can crush the enemy with overwhelming power, then all a magus has to do is to stay in their workshop and leave the whole battle to their heroic spirits. Such tactics also carry a little more realism to them. Interesting. Another excerpt from the old notebook. Certainly, it was a labyrinth-like subterranean workshop. Surprisingly, the lighting was thorough and almost no darkness can be found inside most of the underground space built with concrete materials. It was only dark during this summoning earlier. First, this had a slight positive impression. Brightness is indispensable to Ryder, so if by any chance a subterranean workshop is defined as his own territory, it was not very suited for him in the inside, such as being full of darkness and being as if it were in the dead of night. But it's so bright. What is this? The mineral structure reminded him of the inside of a tomb. Pharaohs before him had felt something there, but for him, the exact opposite effect on him. During his lifetime, he did not attach importance to his own royal tomb. For him, who intended to unite heaven and earth and stipulated that he was a pharaoh who reigned over both of them for an eternity as a god, the kind of royal tomb which was his house in the afterlife was not subject to curiosity and interests, but at the same time was a subject of a certain disgust. It's like he brought it for my own displeasure. The lighting was good. However, it is frustrating to go out of your way to hide yourself in a place that was like a tomb. Even so, he said he would see it for himself. As he said he would see it for himself, he would be breaking his word if he destroyed it immediately. Fairness is his natural bearing as a pharaoh. Oh, fair, I didn't even put that together. Thus, Ryder walks around the subterranean workshop while conscious of his earlier deferment. He didn't pass by that many people, but in general, the members of the Asemi clan in the subterranean workshop were dressed in lab coats, which were the attire worn by scholars and doctors in this era of the 20th century. The minimum knowledge that comes from the Grail conveys the current state of the era, but no information was provided about a magus who was the embodiment of mysteries, dressing like a scholar or doctor who was mastered a science and was on the cutting edge of civilization. Watching the 12th person counting respectfully to him, Ryder tilts his head and stares at the state of the large 7th hospital room. I see. He nods approvingly, while remembering some of his satisfactions. The room he was looking into was filled with large computers, machines created by real modern civilization, not the mystic codes and ritual tools assembled through alchemy. That which was a large film-type storage medium which makes a lot of noise and spins was probably what they called a supercomputer, according to the knowledge automatically conferred to him. The other rooms were similar. Some even seemed like homunculi culture tanks were connected to modern civilization like machines. According to that masked old man's speech, that is. The clan seemed to have somewhat conformed to modern science, which is rare for a magus. Rather, he could not say that they improved on the magecraft theory, which could not be expected to develop further, by supplementing it with modern science, which should rightfully be avoided by mages. It's also very humorous. They attempted an achieved fusion of modern science and magecraft. Speaking of which, it sounds good, but from Ryder's point of view, it's just a pitiful word. Is it something like fusion? It is nothing than the act of further fraying by making up for the mysteries they lack with machines, and then the further fraying is repeated as a supplement. How ugly. Originally, he never thought mages were beautiful. There were similar people in his lifetime. There were strange practitioners among his vassals, but most of them were in the world as an assembly of hermits estranged from the world. Foolishness, if like the unthinkable natural act of citizens prostrating themselves to the fair, was not uncommon. Of course, it's unclear if Magus lineages in ancient Egypt had remained till today, but their habits will probably not have changed much over time. Even on that premise, the semi-clan's way of life was even more ugly, as if they are struggling to escape before they perished. At the time of his death, he recalled how he lamented his death. "Shall I burn them?" In that moment, he wondered if he should take action with the words he muttered. Ryder stepped into a certain room. It was a white room. It was a room filled with especially strong light, even among the various rooms in the subterranean workshop illuminated by the fluorescent modern lights and the lights that were too white. He carefully observes the room, squinting slightly. He simply thought with irritation, are they ever going to burn out? There was an object that caught his attention. He sets aside all of his thoughts and feelings from just before. Beyond his gaze, there was a single, small person lying on a bed. It was a little child connected to machines of various sizes by numerous cables. Was it some kind of torture, or was it after some torture? Ryder could read at a glance the majority of their body had some kind of deficiency. The deficiency extended not only to limbs, but also to their internal organs. He looks at the instruments embedded in some of the machines and reads the information on them. Apparently, the child was sick from birth. He couldn't read their age. 4, 5 years old? It was hard to imagine that their condition would lead to proper growth. It may be doubtful whether their age matches their appearance. On the contrary, it was... Well, I stopped it. On the contrary, it was a miracle that he was now alive, considering how some of his vital organs were no longer functioning. But it appeared they were kept barely alive by the Asemi's technology, which messily combined magecraft and science. He probably also had magic circuits to add to his sorrow. If they are a magecraft lineage that is falling to ruin, those who inherit the magic circuit from their parents will use whatever method to at least pass it to the next generation, even if a disease causes unbearable pain to the young one with each pulse and breath. Ryder looks into the child's eyes. The little child opens their eyes and looks back at the brilliance of the sun with their pale eyes. There were no words. Strangely, it didn't feel disrespectful. "You. Your name?" There was no reply. Only a painful young breath echoes through the plastic breathing device. It was a little frustrating, but Ryder didn't want to punish him. If the information on the instruments he read was correct, the boy is under a heavy burden at the moment. He can see that it was considerate, even if he did not know. He could see that it was considerate, even if he did not know whether it was pain or suffering. Therefore, he was interested in him. What did this person think while being affected by this disease? "I am a great pharaoh. If you pray to the heavens as my subject, I shall listen and grant you my mercy." Quietly, Ryder tells the child, "In short, if you wish it, I will kill you right away." Of course, he considered death to be peaceful. He didn't consider it, but "I have something to wish for." A trembling voice reaches through his breathing device. "For the people," the sound was too weak, "of the world to be happy." What? Couldn't believe his ears at the child's words. At the same time, he felt for this little child who uttered a voice while hiding his deadly disease. It was his aura, not one unique to mages. It was not something like mana or magic circuits or magic crests, no, or the power he emits or his clearly existing organs. It was more obscure and incomprehensible, but more than anything, could be sensed by Ryder. The spirit of a king, no. The temperament of a warrior, no. The magical talent, no. It cannot be something so lowly. This feeling This presence, this nobility, and, those words that he just told him. That was a day in the distant, distant past. Of course, this was long before he was summoned as a heroic spirit in the 20th century. It was a day when he still had Ka and a clear body. What the frick is Ka? Just a little before he rose as a pharaoh with his father, King Seti. And although he was a boy, he was recognized as crown prince and given the throne of Geb, was entrusted with the construction of the temple of Abydos, the place of the god of Osiris's resurrection, and gained political experience as the viceroy of Nubia, on the banks of the pure Nile River. Soon he forgot about military and political affairs, and smiled with the two he loved more than anything. "Since when did the three of us start meeting like this?" says Nefertari. Having said that, the shy one was his beloved girl. The beautiful maiden, Nefertari, who had been accepted as his queen a few years later, who would be accepted as his queen, his partner, who he continually gave him her utmost genuine, His partner continually gave him her genuine utmost love and respect in the life by letting him have many women and children. Okay, well, with his 4 princesses, 6 concubines, and hundreds of lovers. Oh my god, okay. Looks like the 100 Girlfriends Who Really, Really Love You is a bit of a rewriting of an old story, huh? Out of all of them, she was the most beautiful and unmistakable best of the lot. He can clearly remember her like this. This lovely figure was truly the goddess herself. The beauty of her dance and the splendidness of her songs must have made her the manifestation of Hathor, the goddess of love and romance on earth. She was a gentle, lovable, kind-hearted girl. He remembered being very surprised when he learned that she had exchanged letters with Hittite Queen Puduhepa, who was his fated enemy. He heard Nefertari and Queen Puduhepa was happy about the peace treaty he closed with the Hittites. While showing the courage to stand on the battlefield herself, she is truly filled with love and her heart shines brightly on the ground like a flower. Oh my god, it's Moses! Oh my god, we got Fate Moses is here. Okay, Fate Moses is here. It's great that both of you are in good health. I'm glad we are able to talk like this. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna be real. Every time a biblical figure comes up, I get excited because, like, that's, like, what I know, you know? And the one who spoke quietly was his dear friend, a Naruna boy. Naruna means young youth or soldiers in Egyptian hieroglyphics. Comes from the word Neraim, the Jewish word for boys, young men, and men. Apparently soldiers made up of slaves in ancient Egypt too, so I went with Naruna people for the translation. Okay, sounds good. A Naruna boy who found himself on the banks of the Nile by his beautiful and compassionate late mother and raised... Oh my god, wait! This is the Prince of Egypt. I never put this together. I never put together that the Prince of Egypt movie is the same as... Oh, that's Ozymandias, huh? Okay. Well, okay. Never put that together. Okay. He was, okay. So, a Naruna boy found himself on the banks of the Nile River by his beautiful and compassionate late mother and raised with himself. He was the only unrivaled brother on this earth who had the talent and the character to fit to stand on par with himself, who will rule this earth as a pharaoh. He was a boy with white skin, unique to the Naruna people, not tan skin like themselves. If he wasn't an adopted child, but a child born from his mother's womb, and if his skin color was not so white and transparent, then King Seti would definitely have given his brother the throne of Geb as crown prince. If that had happened, he would have decided to help his brother as a brave general, albeit with some jealousy. He certainly loved his brother so much that he could think of so from the bottom of his heart. I think it'd be nice if people were happy. He thinks it was this boy, his brother's favorite saying. It was the same day. That boy said while rejoicing their reunion. What's this also? The Egyptians employed inter alia a contingent. Oh my god. We got a proper, like, Okay, this is how you know a translation is good. When you got a freaking citation in there, good stuff. I like it. Oh my god, there he is. Fate Moses. Wow. Nefertari looks about what I expected. Ozzy is extremely shirtless. Okay. I think I've seen this design before because I was curious about Fate Moses. And here we see. Wow, okay. What? Did we miss a page? 93? 91? 92? Wait. The boys said rejoicing their reunion. The gods the Naruna people serve are surely wishing for the same thing too. I feel like... Okay, they might have just missed the thing. Ramses. Oh, so you claim to understand the hearts... I feel like there's something missing. Boys said rejoicing at the reunion. The gods the Naruna people serve are surely wishing for the same thing too. No, that... Okay, that might be the same thing. Okay, that might be fine. Oh, so you claim to understand the hearts of pharaohs and gods, even though you're not a pharaoh. He asked his brother, who tended to dream. Oh yeah, his name is oh my god, yeah, Ramses. Yeah, that would be it, huh? I never put that together. Although he's honored to be smarter than anyone else, in truth, he realized that his brother, this brother of his, was much more knowledgeable and was looking at the larger picture. Which is why, although these words had ridicule in them, it wasn't malicious. Well, maybe if you say so. He at least had half of that feeling. Oh, Ramses, don't be so mean, Nefertari smiles. What are you saying? This isn't being mean. Well, at least half of it wasn't. The next pharaoh is definitely going to be you, Ramses. You who will ascend to the same position as the gods. No, even the god Amen will be the greatest pharaoh of all time. And I should know because I know your heart somewhat. So it has come to that. After saying that, he smiles. Indeed, besides Nefertari, only you know my heart. And the young man who was his brother talked. So it's interesting, because, like, we can think of, you know, Ryder here as, like, Proto-Gil. Does that mean, like, Moses is, like, Proto-Enkidu? And, like, Nefertari is obviously Proto-Siduri. That's a really interesting connection there. That is... He even has the hair almost of a homunculus, but I feel like we shouldn't be calling a Jewish hero a homunculus. I feel like that's extremely disrespectful, but yeah. Soon, indeed, okay, soon a great pharaoh will arise anew to give joy, peace, and tranquility and stability to all who live on the earth. You can give joy to even the Hittites. You're exaggerating. I'm confident I can win wars, but... You can do it. I'm telling you that you're not just anyone. Listen, you will be Ozymandias, beloved by everyone in the world. You can easily say it, because you don't know war yet. No, Ramses, it's strange, but I think it's the same thing. Nefertari, you tend to dream. What do you two think of me? You are you, after all. The girl smiles again. Yes, I'm telling you because you are you. The young man smiles as well. That day, at that time, beside his beloved girl, he listened to the words of his dear brother. Some of the feelings that sprung up his heart were joy, honor, and pride. Later, against his brother, who had decided to part ways with him after a decisive split after he truly rose as pharaoh, against Moses, who was destined to split apart the Great Sea and depart to Israel while leading an almost great number of Naruna people. It was the first moment in his life where he certainly felt sacred. He certainly felt a sacred being that was not the pharaoh. I think he felt like one. There was no way he could forget. Even after the hostility and separation, he still remembered it even now after his life once ended. The face and voice of the young man who wished happiness to all the people in the world. Is there a person like you nowadays who's experienced the same amount of time as eternity too? Ryder whispered. At a corner of the underground workshop, in a room lit by dazzling white lights, he gently smiles instinctively at the child who cannot move while still being connected by cables. To think, I would hear those same words again after 3,000 several hundred years. Rejoice, bound child. With your existence, the Asemi clan has been allowed to live. There was no reply. The child seemed to have lost consciousness before the pain. Perhaps even in their dream, the small one will continue to think of the words he spoke earlier, while suffering and feeling pain, just like Ryder's dear friend. About communication with heroic spirits, as mentioned before, building relationships between masters and servants is crucial. Heroic spirits summoned by function of the Holy Grail War have a wish. Basically, masters and servants are connected in the point of winning the Holy Grail War, but relying on that fact is a dangerous word. A function of the Holy Grail gives masters master degrees with enormous magical power. Master's degrees are an absolute command right to a servant. When considering them as a strategy or tactic, one aspect of them, ability and reinforcement, should be emphasized. It is way too dangerous to use a master degree as a coerced action against a relationship discrepancy. As I mentioned many times, know that it is a bad move to do so. The moment you do, your mutual relationship is decisively broken. Use the master degree to only strengthen your heroic spirit. Although it is an example of a possibility, if you fail to build a smooth relationship, consider using others. Even if they are incompatible with the master themselves, if they hit it off with one of the master's relatives, the probability that a servant will immediately rebel should decrease. Of course, it's an armchair theory. Placing others, especially relatives of the family, near the master during the Holy Grail War should be considered dangerous and is never recommended. I will state it again. Do not challenge the Holy Grail War with your children beside you. Unless you aren't in an established situation where the aforementioned siege battle can be established, it should not be considered as an option. An excerpt from the book. Somewhere in the darkness, there are people talking. A gorgeous girl and a quiet, wise man. One can't tell what darkness lay inside them now. The only thing one can say is, it could only be about the huge cup deep underneath Tokyo there. No, is it really a cup? Wasn't it a cauldron that moves like the pits of darkness itself? Lady Banaka, I'm afraid to report. What is it, Castor? You find something interesting? I've identified the phantasmal species that attacked you and Saber the other day. That cat, huh? Wasn't very cute. That is a divine beast. In ancient Egypt, the Sphinx was known as an incarnation of the sky god Horus and existed as a manifestation of raging winds and fire. Of course, you probably know this without me having to tell you. A Sphinx? What about it? The true identity of Ryder who controls it, in all probability, is likely a pharaoh from Egypt. There's a possibility to talk with him before then. If Ryder's true name is suspected, then aside from you, Saber will be at a slight disadvantage. Needless to say, Assassin will be annihilated without even moving. Oh, my Saber will be fine. After all, his holy sword is the brilliance of the stars. People's wishes. No matter if they are god or devil, they are no match against it. Maybe so. That is if he can wield the holy sword. Huh? I've taken some measures. Think of it as insurance. In the face of a brilliant pharaoh, even if he is a great king, the best and ideal plan is needed, to hope for a surefire win. That's fine. I'll leave it to you. As you wish. The wise man bows deeply towards the girl. That appearance was like a servant addressing the king of the world. Whoa, that's crazy. And then, 6 days after Ryder's materialization, 2 days after slaughtering Berserker in a flash bombing from the skies above the Raricon Manor, a magnificent and majestic large structure appeared in Tokyo Bay at night. A super large temple complex, clad in countless lights, like a sea of stars falling into the ocean from the night sky. A temple structure appeared in the form of a destroying connection point linking the underwater tunnel in the bridge to Kisazaru's artificial island, commonly known as Umihotaru, currently under construction on the Trans-Tokyo Bay Expressway from Kawasaki City, Kanagawa Prefecture to Kisazaru City, Chiba Prefecture, so it could be opened as the Tokyo Aqua Bay Line in 1997, 6 years later. History lesson, let's go! After undergoing large-scale underwater construction, the tip of the temple, who stretched for several kilometers, destroyed the artificial island under construction. Miraculously, 0 people died. No, he was sure that there was no dead for the time being. Ryder, the true owner and ruler of the temple, made sure to do so. Right, this transcendent temple structure is the existence that embodied Ryder's mental image and the might of his lifetime. This was his greatest divine might. This was his most powerful noble phantasm, a miraculous reality marble that could freely rewrite reality. By further mixing composite temples consisting of multiple temples such as the Dendara Temple Complex and the Karnak Temple Complex, and combining them with giant temples and mausoleums such as the Great Temple of Abu Simbel and the Ramesseum, a strange-looking temple complex which cannot exist in reality has been established. The strange-looking structure, which combines even the temples he had never worked on in his lifetime, correctly demonstrates his prestige, which proclaims all temples, past, present, and future, are for him. That's why, prior to being Ryder, he was a pharaoh who disregarded all the legends and stories preached by the priests, captured the world from his own perspective, captivated myths, and grasped and worshipped the gods. Truly, everything in the world belonged to him, and its prosperity and happiness belonged to him as well. However, still there was something that couldn't be granted. No one in this world mourns as much as they should when they die. In the throne room of the main temple, which was in the innermost temple complex, Ryder closes his eyes in his shining, elevated, and more than anything authentic throne that was incomparable to the one quietly set up in the dark underground by the Asemi clan. I am supreme, perfect, and absolute. I must be eternal. My tragedy is that I was mortal. Like other pharaohs, my powerlessness had no choice but to conquer the journey to God while dreaming of my rebirth at the end of distant time. There was no one to listen to his speech. To be correct, what Ryder was announcing were his words to God, words to himself. Therefore, I shall seek life from the Holy Grail. Surely I must reign as the master of this world. So I ask, is this present-day world the world which I deserve to rule? It will be a world he can enjoy. At least it's not so bad if he only looks at the battles. Archer, Lancer, and Saber. They are only given the common name the Three Knights by the Mage Association, and are fairly powerful heroic spirits. For him who had achieved victory in numerous battles, he was confident he could get the same elation as when he faced off with the Hittite army in the Levant region from them. However, that alone is meaningless. Battle is good, he liked it. He even thought it was okay to face those heroes with his double-edged dagger, his favorite sword, without using his noble phantasms, but he was no longer satisfied with just battle. Most of all, his beloved Nefertari wasn't here. Is it worth the fight? In the era of the 20th century, is the world enough for him to come back to life? Ryder has been shaking slightly for the past few days, and then, I'll admit it now, he smiles for the first time since he was summoned. The first time was in a room in the subterranean workshop, when he received the words of the child with the achievements of the saint. The second time was in the estate of the Raricon family, when he felt the existence of the girl with the traits of a ruler. There are saints and kings in this era too. While foreseeing his decisive battle with the Silver Knight who was doing damage all over the place, with a loud laugh. Ha 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 ha! Fine, I admit it. It beckons me. This place is no different from the world I ruled, and I am certainly obsessed with it. I want it. Why, you ask? Because the world is designed to be ruled over by me. With a faint cry, a number of rays which reminiscent of a magic circuit started running one by one from the throne to the ceiling, walls, and floors of the innermost main temple. The darkness of the main temple is instantly filled with the light of mana. At this moment, Ryder's greatest noble phantasm, the Ramesseum Tentaris, truly activates. A myriad of the inner temples activate their bounded fields from their corresponding gods. The stone sphinxes awaken, and the great light bulb Dendera turned into the wrath of heaven itself as it began to ring. By me. By Ozymandias, the King of Kings. Ryder laughs loudly while proudly screaming its true name, Ozymandias. In other words, one who was born from the god Ra, Horus, child of Amen, one born from Mot, a bull sparkling with victory, a protector of Egypt, beloved by Mot, conqueror of foreign lands, boasting of great victories over the years, the lord of both countries who rules the universe, Ramses, one beloved by Amen, Usermat, Seterperni, okay. The name of the greatest and strongest pharaoh who ruled over the ancient Egyptian worlds in 1,700 years BC, 1,000 several hundred years BC. While he speaks his true name, the whole world must prostrate themselves underneath his radiance. Past, present, and even in the future wouldn't change. And that was his pride, shining and ringing, as if to announce that the time of his decisive battle is nigh. Anat in Set, it is good that you dwell in my arms. Ashtart, you shall congratulate me with a land bloodied by battles after the glory of victory. I, who am Horus and Ra, shall henceforth obtain life again and bestow happiness to the world. O my beloved Nefertari, bless the call of Ozymandias as Hathor. The world must personally be ruled by him. That is the divine providence. He must save the world himself. Even if one of the far eastern cities is reduced to ash by the brilliance of destruction from the sky, whether or not all of them reach the temple, if they want to keep hiding in the capital while despicably using innocent people as shields and rider, Ozymandias will pour mana into the great light bulb and release light and lightning from the temple's main gun until all of them are mowed down. Or was it already too late? If something comes from beyond the sea, he will point his gun ports there. It is truly a battle to save the world. I'll burn all of my enemies and save everything in order for me to rule it. Now come, Potentia Theron, protected by the Sky Silver Knight. Now is the time for the God King to kill you. Yep, that's him. He sure looks angry. Alright, Manaka strikes the Rider Camp's workshop. We will do that next time, guys, as we see Manaka go crazy in the fight against Rider, who seems pretty OP. But I mean, at the same time, Manaka seems incredibly OP. So, we'll see you guys next time for some more Let's Read Fate Prototype. We'll see you guys then. Ciao.
Yo.